Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and mental health survivor. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. The title of today's video is Back From the Brink, May's Addiction and Recovery Story. And Depression Recovery Story, this is a continuation of a series where I interview people I know, many of whom are in my group, where we would talk about their journey in recovery. Before we start, of course, I have to tell my regular joke, and this is actually was an unintentional pun. Ever since I turned 70 about a month ago, I've been having horrible sleep, and I finally, called up my psychiatrist and said, this insomnia is really getting to me. I'm so tired of it. All right. Well, welcome, May.
Oh, thank you, Douglas.
Great to have you on the channel. So, first of all, let me ask you if you do suffer from depression, right, and anxiety, and is that anyone in your family ever suffered from it?
Yeah. So, both my mother and my father both suffer from depression and anxiety. My father, he often used marijuana to cover his up, and I suspect my grandmother has a little bit of depression as well.
So you mentioned the marijuana. That's going to be a theme of our interview because that is the way, like your father, you used the substance you used to help, manage your feelings of anxiety and depression. And didn't it start when you were a teenager? I think you said you first smoked when you were 11, but it really got ramped up when you were 15.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's pretty young.
Yeah, and so I just lived in an environment where that was pretty acceptable. My father was doing it in front of me a lot, and so when I first smoked, I had taken some of his, and really when it started getting into the heavy use was when I was 15, and that's when I moved back in with my mom and stepfather, and they were both hypercritical of me, and so I suspect I was using it to really cover up some of these deep feelings of unworthiness that I was experiencing there.
Absolutely. And then you also said it helped you fit in as a teenager. You were very awkward, and I guess becoming a marijuana user, you fit in with the stoners or some sort of crowd, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when I was a teenager, I moved schools when I was 15, and I just found it very hard to kind of get into a social circle. And so it helped me combat my anxiety, and it also kind of made me relevant. All of a sudden I was one of these cool kids. I was a stoner. I fit in with these, the bad kids. And that's when it really started becoming part of my identity. It started to snowball from there. I started selling weed and then growing weed, and it just really became a kind of central part of my identity after that.
And what helped initiate this is you told me that when you turned 18, your father kind of, did this malinitiation, which is sort of not the way it's supposed to be, but he said, hey, let's smoke together. You're of age. Your mother doesn't like this, but now you can do what you want. And did your father start smoking and using it as a bridge between you?
Yeah, that's correct. So up until that point, my mom had asked that he not allow me to smoke. And so he had kind of, as a facade, been against it up until I turned 18. But when I was 18, he said, you're an adult now. Right. You're old enough to do this. And so we sat down and smoked a joint together. And that really started kind of a ritual. Every time I would see my father, the first thing we would do is sit down together, roll a joint, and then smoke one. And so that was just a really large connection I had with him, and that kind of further strengthened my bond with the drug as well, because that was a large connection with him, and that's something that we did every time together.
Right. So the marijuana is helping you with your feelings of unworthiness. It's helping you become more accepted by your peer group. It's helping you connect to your father, and it's helping you with your income. And this continues all through your 20s. But then when you turn 31, something happens that makes you think, maybe I need to choose a different path.
Right. And so after I turned 31, I had my son, Kira, and I was having some relationship problems with his mother, and they just really got out of control, and there was a lot of anger and just a lot of my suppressed feelings, a lot of those emotions that I had suppressed, those feelings of unworthiness throughout my teenage years and my 20s, those started to come up, and they came up in some really ugly ways, and I wanted something better. I saw that wasn't a good thing. Also, my son, as early as a year and a half old, he started getting interested in marijuana.
Right.
Just kind of interested in the pipes. He would make smoking motions with his fingers, and he would even try to come and smell my plants. And so I wanted something different for him, and wanted something different for myself. And when things got really bad between his mother and we split up, she actually decided to move away and took him with her. And in order to really, I fell into a really deep depression at that point. And in order to really get out of that state, I knew I had to change something. I knew something had to change in a big way. And that's when I started getting sober.
Right. And you were working on it, and then about 4 months ago, you stopped, you stopped completely.
Right.
Became abstinent.
Right.
And that's sort of your recovery date, and you're still abstinent now.
Right.
So, what are some of the tools that have helped you stay abstinent and also deal with the underlying depression and anxiety that the marijuana was covering up in the first place? So, some of the things I know you mentioned social support was humongous, which is my theme. So you've gone to a couple of groups, right?
Right. So first I started with this group called Refuge Recovery, which is a mindfulness and meditation and Buddhist-oriented path to recovery.
Right.
And that was my first big support group. They were very accepting of me. There was a lot of people who had similar issues going forward with substance abuse and alcoholism. And so I was able to connect with them. And then your group as well, the depression and anxiety support group.
Right, which you've been here for 2 weeks, but already it's starting to make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. So to connect with people who are having similar issues, and to learn about more tools, learn about more about how the brain functions, and to take all of these tools and sort of stack the deck in my favor. Do everything possible that I can, whether it's nutrition, exercise, meditation, affirmations, and just whatever I can to really help increase my chances of being happy.
Yeah, all the things we talk about on this channel. And there's one other thing I want to mention to anybody from Portland, and you found a really good outpatient recovery program called Quest.
That's right.
Which I didn't know about until I had known about it years ago, but you refreshed my memory. And it's an intensive outpatient program, and they use acupuncture and counseling and...
Right. So yeah, they combine acupuncture, holistic healing, and groups, and it's just been a really great program for me. It's been another area where I've had lots of support, gain lots of insight, and meet other people who are going through similar things, and just really helps me feel better. Right. And
yeah, well, I must say that when you told your whole story to the group on Tuesday, I was we were all really, just moved and inspired by your story, which is why I invited you to come here and talk about it with the YouTube audience. And it looks like, the future is bright for you. And so if anybody is watching right now and is in a state where whether it's marijuana or alcohol or cocaine or any other drug that they feel they can't live without, and it's somehow helping them deal with, dark thoughts or feelings, what would you say to that person to help them maybe take a step forward?
I would tell that person that it's not too late, that, there are lots of people who are going through similar things as you, and it's great to just reach out to them and to be able to listen to them, learn from them, to tell your story, and that, it does get better. At first it almost was like stirring the pot, and it brought up a lot more things when I got sober. But now, compared to 4 months ago, it's just a world of difference. And I can tell from the people that I talk to that it just gets better and better. So, you're not alone, and it gets better.
And there is help.
Yeah, and there's great resources out there. Support has been an amazing part of my recovery.
As it is with mine and everybody's. Thanks.
All right,
I'm so glad you decided to come on.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you very much for listening, YouTube folks. This has been Douglas Bloch. If you like this video, which I know you will, you can give it a like or leave a comment in the comments section, or you can email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. I also do mental health coaching long distance. You'll see the link on the screen. And if you want to become a contributor to this channel, go to my Patreon account by clicking on the icon of Patreon when it comes up. Oh, no, yes, there's a photo of me on the screen. If you click on that, you'll subscribe to this channel. And if you click on the bell to the right of the subscribe button, you'll be notified every time I do a video and a live chat on Sunday. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you so much for watching.